Brake rotor day on a 65 Thunderbird. 64 won't be the same because 64 is drum brakes, but 65 and 66 should be very similar. So what we're going to do is I have new rotors for this car and new brake pads. So what we'll do one side anyway. And here I have on the bench is a spare hub and rotor that I had from my parts car. So what I'm going to do is just dismantle this one and use this hub, and then I can just do a quick swap when I go to the other one. What I haven't done ever is change the rotor on one of these. So this will all be new to me. I know some guys press them off and whatnot, and I have a press, a bench press. But if you don't have a press, I'm trying to make it so that you could do this yourself at home without the press. So I'm going to think about how I can get these studs out of the hub, because what happens here is the studs come through the back side of the rotor. They come through here, and then the hub sits on top, and then it's all pulled together with the wheel nuts when the wheel's on. So these studs are pressed into the hub as well as the rotor. They're more of a shoulder on the rotor itself, but they're definitely knurled on the hub. So let's get it apart. We'll take it off the spindle and we'll get rid of that. First thing, we need to get this dust cap off here. Now, like I said, the 64 will have drum brakes on it unless they've been converted to disc. 65 was the first year of the disc brakes for these Thunderbirds. Oh, that's a long sucker. Probably gonna have to repack these bearings because they look like they've been sitting for a while. So we'll do that as well. Holy man. Hey, we're down to the last in the bin on this one. That's one long cotter pin. There we go. Okay, then we get this retainer off. That one's in better shape than the ones on it. We'll use that one. And we'll take, I wonder how tight these were on there. That's pretty loose. Not much holding that on. That's the way it should be. Shouldn't be cranked straight down. Get some of that. Man, this grease looks fairly new. It doesn't look very old. Someone must maybe have done these. All right, let's get this off of here. There she is. What I'm going to do, I'm going to pull the seal and the rear bearing out too, or the inner bearing rather, not the rear bearing. So how you do that, in case you're kind of new to this kind of stuff, and there are a lot of new people doing these jobs. I'll tighten this back up. Maybe hopefully I can do this on the bench. So get that out of the way. We'll put her back on the spindle, but we don't put the bearing in. So what we do here, we put the nut back on. Where's the nut? So we put the nut back on like this, just on over the thread, but no bearing in there. So what you do, with the nut on, you just go like that, and that pulls that seal out. Right there. I'll get this out of the way and show you. So that's how you get the seal out and the bearing. And you won't damage the seal doing it that way. And you can reuse it. So now I take the nut back off and I'll check that inner race on the inner bearing. And if everything's good, we'll reuse them. Got the rotor off, the inner bearing out, and the seal off. Now these spindles, if you have a spare set, don't throw them away. There's people actually looking for these. They want to convert their 64s to disc brakes. So I'm hanging on to these until I'm sure I don't need them for anything, and they'll probably put them up for sale. If you're at home and you don't have a press, let's see if we can get these studs out, because they are pressed in and they're in there pretty tight too. So let's see if we can get them out by using the nut on the stud trick here. This is an old wheel nut. I'm not too worried about hurting it, but I don't want to damage the studs. I do have new studs if I need them. There's one. I don't think that hurt the stud any. Nope. So let me do these and we'll get them all done. So if you're at home and you don't have a press, because normally you would press them out, but make sure your nut is down on the stud quite well. And if you have an old nut like I have, it's an old one that, I mean, everybody usually has one of these laying around. I'm not too worried about hurting the nut. Like so. All right, let's get these out. There we go. All done. Now I'll use this little just to separate the two, this chisel. There she is. And there's no, I can't see any indexing on the rotor or anything, the old rotor. So now they're still a little bit touching there. So just tap them down, just a light tap. As a matter of fact, one fell out by itself. So there we have the hub assembly. So I'll sand, actually they're pretty clean. The mating surface there, they're pretty clean. So I'll set that aside. Get this old rotor out of here. I've got these, two of them in my hand here. You guys can see this. Two studs. These are Dorman studs. They're the roughly they're the same thread length, and they appear to be the same knurled. I know they're the same knurled part because I measured them. This shoulder here looks to be about the same too. But I'm going to try them in the new rotor, this part here. If it fits snug, maybe we'll use the new ones. And these are Dorman, oh, upside down. I don't think there's any other markings on the box. They're 2118. Let's see how well they fit. I think they'll, no, they're too loose. They're too loose for the hole. They're loose in there. That's no good. They'll shift on that. So I'm going to have to use these. I'll make sure these fit too though. These fit a little better. Yeah, they fit in, but they're not snug fit, but they fit in. Actually, before we get any further, let's compare the rotors. Because if these rotors don't fit, they have to be the same too. So the same diameter. They appear to be the same in the offset. Let me see. Yep, the offset's the same. Good. And is the bolt pattern the same? Supposed to be the same. Yeah, it looks pretty good. All right, we'll use it. Get dirty already on it. All right, well, I'm going to clean up this hub a tiny bit in the back side of the hub, and we'll get right back to you. All right, just giving her a little wire and brushing. Actually, before I get too deep into this, will it actually fit in the hole? Oh yeah, perfect fit, good. So I just gave it a bit of wire brushing. Now I'm just going to go over with some emery cloth on the mating surface. I'm here. I had some emery cloth sitting here. I may as well do it. They're pretty good though. They're not rusted or anything. I just give it a little bit. There we go. just to make sure that they're smooth and clean. So here we go. So that fits tight. That's a tight fit in there. Now we have to get those studs back in. So we'll flip her all over, like so. I'll put those studs in. And we're gonna have to hammer those down. I'll put a bunch of them in. So once we set them, if they need to be pulled any further, we can pull them through. That one's seated. This guy right here, maybe. This guy here is not in all the way. There. Let's see what this looks like. That's better. Now, see if we can pull them up with the impact now. Oh, need that nut. Need a spacer nut. There we go. There, this'll do it. Not upside down. There, we get her. We'll get her. Get on there. Ah, you could hear the change. That pulled it right up. This one's not all the way. I didn't hear the change. So you can hear the change. Listen for the change. Right there, you can hear it. It goes from loose sounding to tight. To clean this rotor up. It's getting greasy. There she is. This one's not all the way. I'm going to give it another little tighten. One more, and we got her. All right, well, that one got away on me. We'll use this one. There. And make sure they're all the way up, because when you go to torque the wheel, it'll give you a false sense of being tight. So that's one rebuilt, nice and tight. Everything looks good. I don't know why I worried about the rotor at the start, but anyway, I'll put it back on the plastic. It needs to be cleaned up. Hey, well, that didn't take very long. This is the first time I've ever changed one, so I was practicing with stuff. But really, the simplest way is to drive them in with, like I showed you, flip them over, drive them with the drifter and a sledgehammer, and then tighten them up with a spacer nut and a wheel nut. But turn your wheel nut surface down, not the crown up. The crown up, surface down like this. All right, so that's good. That rotor's in there. I'll clean the paw prints off it. So I'm going to jack the car up and we'll get the other rotor off and we'll slip this one on. I just thought of it before we get this before we get it back on the car, or start putting it back in the car, I didn't put the seal back in the race. So clean, 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 clean. You want this to be clean. So I'm going to do a little bit more grease in that. Clean this seal up. This is where you want to keep it dirt free. So I'm going to do a little repacking, just a tiny bit. I'm going to put a little bit in the hub. Just a little. You don't need to fill that void up in there. I'm just going to repack these a bit. That looks pretty good. Drop that guy in there. Cover your grease up. Guys, when you're in the shop here, don't leave your grease uncovered, especially if you're doing body work and stuff. Next time you go to use it, it'll be full of grinder dust and everything else. Seal, where'd the seal go? Right here. Should be able to just tap that down in. Just gently. A little bit more. There she is. There. I didn't forget to put it in. All right, let's get that wheel off and the other rotor, and we'll slap this baby on. You can see how this one throbs. It'll catch and let go, catch and let go. You can even see it. I think you guys can see how warped it is. Probably be able to see it right in there. Anyway, it's warped. So it's coming off 7/16 on the anti-rattle plate. Pull that out, side to side, don't lose the nuts. I have to loosen off this caliper a little bit, so let me get something to pry it back with. These old Ford brakes they're early disc brakes. Like I say, this is the first year for the Thunderbird on having disc brakes. Alright, that'll get the pads out anyway. And these pads aren't even in bad shape, really. I might, come on in, there you go. There it goes. You could probably take them off. Yeah, these aren't bad, but I'll replace them. I'll save these in case I need one for something. There we go. All right, I got a 13/16 on here, deep socket. Short one up top, long one down below. So the short one is up top and the long one goes down below. Let's pull this off and set it aside. Save the spacer. Spacer's off. Now we'll get this hub off here, just like we did the other one. There she is. I'll set that aside. All right, we'll get the new one and we'll put it on. The new rotor here, I gave the inside a little cleaning. Got some clean gloves on. Now let's put this baby back on. Like so. I got my other bearing. I'll put a little bit new grease in on it. A little bit in there. I already put some in the center of this. You don't need a lot in there. Like that. My locking washer. Now let's tighten these up a little bit. Oh, nut, that's what I need. Can't tighten it without the nut. There. I'll spin it while I'm turning it. While I'm tightening it up to about 20 foot-pounds of torque. Roughly right about there. And then back about a quarter turn. About like that. And then back about a quarter turn. That's good. There we go. I'll put the locker on. Make sure it aligns up with a cotter pin hole like that. And I'm going to use, they had that great big long cotter pin on it. There's nothing wrong with the cotter pin, it's just long. But you know what? We don't need to keep them long like that. You can cut them off. They don't have to stay a mile longer than they need to be. So I'm just going to take where the old bend was and snip that off a bit. Make the other one a little bit longer so I can get a hold of it, just like so. Yeah, you don't need to keep the cotter pin super long. If it's too long, it's too long. Still a little long, but I'm going to leave it. That's down in there. I hate it when those are all bunged up like that. All right, let's see what we can do with this caliper. I'm gonna have to move you guys. I can't, well, maybe not. Might be able to get in there and see what's going on. Actually, since I'm putting new pads on, I gotta pull those pistons back a bit. They're no good like that. These 4 piston calipers can be a bit finicky, because if you push on one, you'll push one out of place. And you got to watch where they go. So I've got this one in all the way, so I just, with a C-clamp, and with my other small clamps here, body clamps, I'm going to keep pushing them in slowly. Now if they're stock, don't do this, because you might damage the piston. But I found if you don't hold them all, you push on this one, or this one, or this one will come out. So I just want to creep them back slowly. Now these are metal pistons, so I wouldn't do this with fiber pistons. And when they're all the way back, they're all the way back. Don't try to force them any further. Just bits at a time, slowly. Don't. If they aren't going easy, then find out why they aren't going easy. Maybe they're crossed in the hole a little bit. They do that sometimes. These little clamps work well for this, so you can get them on the hump there. All right, yeah, that's the way you want to be. You guys can't see, but I still have to work, so. I think that one's back all the way. Hold it there. Just double check to make sure this one's back all the way. Yep. Hold him there. This one looks to be back all the way, and I believe this one's back all the way. I'll just give it a quick check. A little more pressure. Yep. There, they should all be back. Should be able to get the shoes in now, or the pads in. All right, I got some new pads here. Raspestos. What's the number of these guys anyway? PGD1. PGD1. Now these new pads aren't much thicker than the old pads, so let's have a peek. There's not much difference in them. But I'll save the old ones for another time, just in case I need one. You never know. Let's get this in place and bolt it down. There we go. Remember where my bolts go. Short bolt on top, long bolt on the bottom. Well, there she is. She's all back together. Oh yeah, the wheel spacer's just hanging there. I gotta put some nuts in the wheel spacer, I'll take it off. But she's spinning true now. There's no hitching, no bumping. That should smooth her down on the highway.